Yeah, it was mostly all positive. Just had a 20-minute hiccup. Really, it was less than that. It was just on the green on 3 and then 4. I was nice to myself. I felt like I regrouped a lot better than I had been the last couple years, where I let mistakes like that get to me. And to play 5 and hit 3-iron, 6-iron, and make a putt there on the hardest hole in the golf course and make a birdie. It was certainly my attitude that allowed that to be possible. I mean, that was huge. So it was nice to get a couple back that I had lost there. But it's hard to go mistake free on this golf course, and there's going to be some stuff that happens, and you just gotta keep finding the fairways. You'll get enough wedge opportunities.
You mentioned that hiccup, and you were able to move through it better than you have in previous years. What did you do different mentally or emotionally?
I almost just feel like I'm in kind of the mental state that I am in major championships, where I recognize that the harder you are on yourself there, if you get any negativity going, it can spiral away. And I don't know. I mean, I'm approaching post quarantine with a lot more patience and giving myself a little grace in every aspect of the game, just to be able to start to find things. I mean, I've honestly been picking those up the last 13 weeks, from 3 feet or whatever in all of our games. So I haven't hit any of them, and sure enough, I probably should have been hitting them. So I'll go practice it and get a little sharper on the short range, and but everything's in a good place.
He will be off at 2:10 Eastern alongside the 36-hole leader Harold Varner III. John, he got comfortable with late weekend tee times before he rolled the odometer at the age of 20, but it's been a little while. But I want to go back to a word that he used, grace, applying grace to himself. How vital will that be this weekend when you're bound to make a mistake or two?
Yeah, no question around Colonial. The word grace, I think, is a wonderful word. And after a couple momentary lapses of reasons there at 3 and 4, going to that 5th tee, it doesn't get any easier. One of the toughest tee shots on the PGA Tour. And he put it right in the middle of the fairway. Hit a beautiful 6-iron underneath the hole, and made that putt and took advantage of that opportunity. So that grace that he's giving himself, that he's been feeling over the last 3 months, I think will take him well into into the weekend. And Matt, it looks like he's very comfortable around Colonial, and that's a good thing. Giving himself some grace and feeling that comfortability will go a long way this weekend. I think he'll have a good weekend.
Yeah, Cookie, I think there's good reason for him to feel comfortable around Colonial. He won there back in 2016. He's finished second twice. He's only finished outside of the top 15 once ever in his outings there. What I was impressed with is the emotional stability that it lends itself to, because I think what we saw with Jordan, I mean, Gary, you used the term on this show where you said he was like a cat on a hot tin roof, suggesting that his mind, that his emotions at times were jumping all over the place. And he alluded to the fact that kind of got away from him. Maybe it was the weight of self-expectation after all that he had accomplished, but it left him in the emotional rough. And from there, Jaime, I think he's finding a balance point. I think he's realizing that adversity comes, that mistakes happen, and that you don't have to beat yourself up for the deficiencies of the moment. You can actually make up for it in other opportunities that lie ahead. So I think this is a different Jordan Spieth, and it's really a pleasure to see the best of who he is in these first 2 rounds, and to think that maybe he has found something in the shutdown that's a little bit different in approach.
I would agree with you, Matt. I think he has been reflective. It looks like he's been sort of through a dark night of the soul, and all golfers go through this. He's been the golden child forever, and he didn't necessarily have a lot of adversity. Now he sounds a little older. His voice is a little lower. He just looks like a guy who's gone into veteran status. And I think that's well earned and probably will serve him well. Not to say he was immature before, but, golf's just never easy over the long haul. And he finally, and with, big time impact, really went through a tough time, as tough as any great player of the last 20 years has, in terms of, having to go into his 20s with, having the fear of having lost his game. And I think what he's talking about now is the fruit of that, is like, okay, what was I doing wrong that was wearing me out? And I think he knows now that it was destructive. He may have thought it was something that, would pump him up every time he made a mistake. I think instead, the grace that he talks about is really the forgiveness you have to give yourself if you're going to have a long career in golf, and actually rise to the moment when it matters most, because otherwise I think you get frazzled after a long time of just being high energy, high edgy kind of mentality. The best guys like Nicklaus and even Tiger, because he could get mad, but he'd be ready for the next shot. There's a serenity there, and I think that's what Jordan is learning.
The other thing, which is very interesting to me, is that he's always been very, very good with the media. And I thought that he maintained not only a relative high level of patience on the golf course last year, patience with questions, questioning his methods, which naturally would put anybody in a defensive position. But as we transition to the question, which is the question about the confidence level of him going into the weekend, let me preface it by saying this. This is not the first time we've had this conversation about him heading into a Saturday in 3 years. We did it many times last year. Consider the fact at Pebble Beach, at the Heritage, at the Valero Texas Open, at the Wyndham, he was within 3 shots of the lead on all of those occasions. He didn't finish the golf tournament inside the top 25, shot over par rounds all 4 of those occasions, including shooting 42 going out at the Valero on Saturday, and including shooting 77 on Saturday at the Wyndham and missing the secondary cut. So, John, why will today be different?
I think just because in this layoff, he has learned a couple things about himself. He's given himself some grace. Whether he's done anything mechanically, any of those adjustments in this professional game is about adjusting. But the main key is he's a little more comfortable coming into this weekend on a comfortable golf course. So I look for bigger and better things for Jordan this weekend and going forward.
Cookie, the fact that he is neutral emotionally, I think, is having an impact on what he's doing with clubs in hand. Yesterday, he was 93% in driving accuracy. He was 83% in greens and regulation in the first round. It's this combination of strong play, 3.3 and 1.9 in strokes gained putting on the 2 rounds, respectively. So, Jaime, he's putting together the technical side in balance with that emotional side.
I like that he's talking about feels, being in touch with his feels. That's not what it looked like last year. It looked like a lot of positions and a lot of swing rehearsals. I think he's getting to something more intuitive, and I think he's an artist, and that's the best way for him to play.
I'll tell you what, him being emotionally neutral, the one-way conversation with the golf ball is back. And oh, by the way, he was fist pumping through the midpoint of a second round with no fans on the golf course. If that's emotion neutral, he's very different from everybody else.